Hey there friends, Dave Paulides, CanAm Missing Project. This is the executive producer, Huck. She's tuckered out today. And she's a little depressed, and I'll explain that to you right now. So, as I've stated, that there's a location where Huck goes and hangs out when Dave has to be on the road working. And this location, it's owned by a vet. Perfect place to go for her. People there love her. And the location has a dog that was there named Hazel. Hazel is also a 3-year-old Pyrenees female. The owners of Hazel found that she had killed some chickens, and they want to get rid of her. Now, Huck has been playing with her for the last 7 months. They don't even want her on the property. I have personally gone there and played with Hazel. She is a great dog. A great dog. I came within that much of adopting her myself. Now, this is a picture of Hazel here and Huck over here. They're best buddies. Honest to God, I wouldn't do this if I didn't know the dog personally. She's outstanding. The owners finally said, okay, we're going to give her to the Great Pyrenees Rescue of Montana. You can look them up online. She's headed there within the next couple days. And what the Great Pyrenees Rescue does is that they look for homes for these dogs. If you are a person in Montana, I don't really care where you're at, and you want a Great Pyrenees that is an absolutely loving dog, just like Huck, you want Hazel. She's coming from Kalispell, Montana, and I told them that I would make Hazel famous. We've got to get it. We've got to get Hazel adopted. And honestly, I'm irritated like heck at the people that got rid of her, because her demeanor is so sweet and such a good dog. A dog is part of the family. You just don't get rid of them. If you're having a problem with her attacking chickens, build a bigger fence. Come on. Come on. Okay, I don't want to go into the big tirade, but contact Great Pyrenees Rescue of Montana, and I guarantee you will not be disappointed. I promise. All right, today, I wrote this book a number of years ago. I took a little heat on it. Missing 411, a sobering coincidence. And what's a sobering coincidence? It's about a series of people who disappear, predominantly men, who disappear from cities after they've been drinking. Later found in bodies of water. Quite a coincidence. A sobering coincidence. And I took some heat because people said, oh, that's not missing 411. Oh, yes, it is. Oh, yes, it is. There's never any scent trail to where the person's found. There's never any tracks to where the person's found. Nobody ever knows how the person disappears from a bar in a city and miraculously shows up in a river or a pond. I'm going to cover one of the stories in this book, and it's going to lead you to another story that's current. The story I'm going to tell you about involves a young man named Cullen Fortney. He was 21 years old at the time, in January 8th, 2006. Fortney is German. Now, there are many things written about this case, and the vast majority are wrong. A lot of people have copied my stories right out of my book. I appreciate that. And then others have stated, well, I didn't think the story was like that. Well, it's because you didn't do your research. Well, Cullen was a student at the University of Wisconsin at Madison, and he was on a holiday break, Christmas, New Year's break. And he was staying with his parents in Viroqua, Wisconsin. Well, all of his buddies were hanging around. They had some friends that were in La Crosse that were staying. And what they did is they decided to get together, go to La Crosse, spend the night at their buddy's house, go out drinking with them in the town, have a good night out. Sounds like fun. Now, most drinking establishments in La Crosse are in an 8-block square area. Well, they partied through the night, at least part of the night. The last stop was a place called John's Bar. Remember this, 109 3rd Street. And the bar sits approximately 1,000 feet from the Mississippi River. The buddies arrived with Cullen at the bar at about 1:30. There were people there, everyone's having fun. He was dancing, having fun. And then at about 2 a.m., his friends started looking for him. Bar's not that big. They can't find him. And they knew he didn't have any place really to go since he was staying with some of the other friends in town. So they're getting a little nervous. Where's he going? It's mega cold outside. It's January. Now, this story is very unusual for many reasons. Cullen is one of the very few people that disappear under these conditions and is later found alive. Yes, alive. How can that be, Dave? Well, that's the million-dollar question. Cullen was interviewed by an ex-police officer from New York City, Gannon. And I explained this in my book. Gannon did a tremendous job. Cullen tells Gannon that he remembers it was kind of near 2 a.m. He was in the bar dancing. And he says that's his last memory of being in downtown La Crosse. He says his next memory is he's floating down the Mississippi River on a frozen night in January. And he says his instincts tell him he needs to start swimming with the current and try to get to shore. Smart young man. He was near Isla La Plume. Isla La Plume. Now, what does that really mean? Well, that's a good question, Ollie. See if I can find this for you. Here we go. So here's downtown La Crosse. And there's a side channel here of the Mississippi. And the Mississippi flows all the way around this city and then goes that way. He's floating down the Mississippi. Isla La Plume is right about here. And he swims out and he gets out of the water right about there. Now, there's several miracles that happen with this story. And we'll get to that. He says he swims near shore and he pulls himself up and he realizes he lost his shoe and his hat and about $20 in cash. He said he laid on the bank, completely stunned, not believing where he was at. It was daylight. He said he heard traffic, got up, and he staggered to the road where he heard the traffic. And he looks, and he's across the street from Gunderson Lutheran Medical Center. Absolute miracle. If he had pulled himself up on a remote island, he probably would have died from hypothermia. He walked in the hospital doors at 7 a.m. Yeah, you got that right. 7 a.m. Now, this is a part where you really need to be paying attention to this. He told Gannon that he didn't believe he was in the water more than 5 to 10 minutes. The water temperature at the time, per authorities, was 32 degrees. Statistics show that if you're in the water at that temperature for 15 minutes, you're dead. Now, there can be some variables to that, but essentially, you have no time, folks. If he was in that water 10 minutes, he only had a few more minutes and he was a goner. 8 a.m., La Crosse Police Department arrived at the hospital and they took a blood test and they found his blood alcohol at the time was 0.043. 0.08 is the legal limit in most states to drive. He was halfway there. Blood alcohol levels drop by 0.02 per hour in a standard-sized male, meaning he had been gone for 5 hours. So you add 0.10. So at a minimum, his blood alcohol level would have been a 0.143 at a minimum when he was last seen at 2 a.m. Now, the distance from the bar where he was at to where he exited the water was about 1.5 miles. All the reports say he would have had to have been placed in that water at 6:45 a.m. There's very little wiggle room on this based on the toxicity of being in the water. Can't be in that water more than 15 minutes. He said he was there 5 to 10 minutes. You see how important this is? Now, if your mind's asking these questions I'm going to ask, you're doing good. Where was Cullen between 2 a.m. and 6:45 a.m.? 4 hours and 45 minutes. He was gone. Nobody knows where he was at. Nobody saw him leave the bar. Now, he has lost time and lost memory. Many people in the UFO world who claim abduction also claim memory loss. It would appear as though Cullen was abducted and dumped in the La Plume Slough. What happened in this case, and why didn't Cullen drown? In the hundreds of cases I've chronicled like this, nobody is ever seen entering the water. See how that could be important? You think, how is that possible? Somebody would have had to have seen it. There's cameras everywhere. No. According to GeniaNet, the Fortney is a name that comes from Germany. The victims that were last seen inside a bar are never seen exiting the bar. How is that possible? And they seem to vanish in front of everyone. It's like there's a suspension of time and space. The person disappears and then everything starts up again. Now, there's hundreds of US and Canadian cities with rivers and lakes and ponds around them, in them, etc. But there's only a handful of these cases and cities that mimic this type of incident. The numbers of missing in La Crosse and other Minnesota and Wisconsin towns are significant. Same way with Boston, Massachusetts, New York City, the Great Lakes areas. Same sort of thing. Well, what is it? Well, this is a map. This is La Crosse, Wisconsin right here. Here's Madison, Milwaukee, Chicago, Green Bay. La Crosse is right here. Minneapolis is right here. Minneapolis is another town that I've written about extensively that has these cases. Well, all along the Mississippi River. I stated long ago that the Mississippi is something, there's something about the river that isn't good. Now, the Mississippi empties into the Gulf. It means that it has access to oceans. Things can go up the river. I've always said that UFOs hide in the water. So what's going on here? I have no idea what's going on. But I do say that when somebody has memory loss, missing clothing because Cullen was missing his shoes, you got to pay attention to this. You can't ignore it. And you have to understand that if you just follow those facts, you're going to see a string that attaches all of these cases. Now, in the 70s, when La Crosse and other Wisconsin towns were having these same issues, citizens got together and thought that there was a serial killer in all these towns and demanded the police do something. Well, the police said, "Oh, there's no crime in any of these. There's nothing here. Don't worry about it. It's just drunken kids, etc." Well, if that's the way it is, why doesn't every town that has a college on a river have drunken kids going in the river? Because it's not happening. Okay, the next case I've talked about recently, but now things have changed. We have a lot more evidence. We do. The case involves a young lady named Elliotte Heinz, 22 years old, missing July 20th, 2025. Yes, she is German. She's a graduate student at Viterbo University in La Crosse, Wisconsin. She was a mental health graduate student. This didn't pass me by, folks. Mental health is probably, if we really got down to the nuts and bolts, one of the main issues in the United States right now. The mental health of our citizens. You couple mental health with drug abuse, it's the number one issue. It's got to be. Look at all the homeless people. Mental health is at the core of all this. Our suicide rate is expanding. We need more mental health professionals, more counselors, more psychologists. And that's what Elliotte was striving to be. She was a graduate of Hortonville High School in Wisconsin, kind of southwest of Green Bay. She also graduated from the University of Wisconsin at Stevens Point in 2024. And she was a graduate student at Viterbo in La Crosse in July of 2025. She had a younger brother named Brett and a younger sister named Hayden and a mom and dad. And the thing that had her heart the biggest in her life, this one's hard, is a dog named Boone. Here's Boone. There are many pictures out there of Elliotte and Boone. And you can just tell these two loved each other. Look how happy that dog looks. Look how happy they both look. Poor Boone. Damn. So, Elliotte lives in an apartment about a 30-minute walk from downtown La Crosse. Not very far. Very good student, very conscientious. People describe her as very loving, very caring, outdoors girl, loves hunting and fishing. Well, on Saturday, July 19th, Elliotte made a short walk from her apartment into downtown La Crosse. And she went to a place called the Broncos Bar. Pay attention. 105 3rd Street. Oh, yeah. That other location was 109 3rd Street. That's right. Very close to each other, these two bars. The one where Fortney disappeared. Well, she goes to the bar, and by every account I can find, nothing happened in that bar that was suspicious. Nothing. But at 2:30 a.m. on July 20th, going into the next morning, Elliotte is seen leaving the bar alone with every intention of going to her apartment. That's what was reported. It's also reported that she wasn't depressed or suicidal or staggering drunk. This is important. There's a picture of her walking down the street. Doesn't appear, she's wearing shorts, top, doesn't appear drunk, normal stride. Not sure what to make of that. At 3:20 a.m., 50 minutes after leaving the bar, she's seen on CCTV near the waterfront in the Mississippi River. Now understand something. This is the area in the bar that she was at. This is 500 Front Street where she was near at one point. This is Viterbo University down here. Now, Fortney was found right down in this area, but same general area he was partying in that she was partying in. At 3:39, there's another article that says that another camera caught her walking towards the water and then reversing direction and walking away. I don't know what to think of that. It was reported by one site. That was it. There were rumors that her phone was found later that morning by someone who called the parents, who then called the police. Never said where the phone was found. But the parents called the police, and they responded along with family and friends and started to search. Massive search and rescue starts. She's not in her house, not in her apartment, doesn't have her phone, nobody knows where she's at. Now in 1997, these are the first cases that started in Wisconsin, always involving students in rivers and ponds and lakes. The search for Elliotte went on for multiple days. They put posters up, scanned the river, everyone in her student body was made aware of what was happening. Her university showed concern, made posts, etc. It was a big deal, folks. A big deal. On July 23rd at about 10:28 in the morning, some fishermen were adjacent to Brownsville, Minnesota, and they found a body face down in the river. Police came out and they recovered the body of Elliotte. She was wearing a smartwatch, and that's all that we know, and nothing else was stated about what she was wearing. So, downtown La Crosse, Cullen was found here. Elliotte was found here. Number one issue to me, I've never stated that in every case, but predominantly, women who drown are found face up, men are found face down. In these cases, it's the exact opposite. At the time they found her body, the coroner and police stated it would be several months until the report was available. Now, they found her in July. July to August, August to September, September to October. It takes 3 months to get drug and alcohol chemical tests completed and body tests, etc. found. But this carried on for many more months, till just now, December 11th. Why did it take that long? I have no idea. It doesn't make any sense to me. But the official coroner's report was released, and the police department confirmed that the last confirmed sighting of her was at 3:22 a.m. in the 500 block of Front Street, walking south, supposedly heading home. No signs of inebriation, according to any of the reports. The cause of death, per the coroner, was drowning with a blood alcohol level of 0.193. No drugs were in her system. Let me tell you, if Dave was a 0.193, I wouldn't be able to walk. So 0.08 is the legal limit to drive. Double that, 0.16, she's 0.19. At 22 years old, she should be staggering drunk. Yet that was never shown. Her smartwatch. And here's where it gets interesting to me. A lot of times we don't have data on this. We can't say what time things happen, etc. One report states she's last seen on CCTV at 3:39. That was the one I told you about. The smartwatch, pay attention to this, states her final steps were at 4:30 a.m. So where was she for 50 minutes that she was never caught on camera anywhere? She had to be on terra firma, walking. Where was she? Smartwatch also indicated that her last recorded heartbeat, was at 7:30 a.m. 3 hours after she took her last step. Is that meant to imply that she swam this river for 3 hours? I don't think so. So if she wasn't walking, where was she for 3 hours? Nobody in law enforcement seems to care about this. It's just, I don't know, let's move on. Now, her last recorded heart rate beat was at 7:30 a.m. 10:30 a.m., 3 hours later, the parents called the police and they were dispatched to do a welfare check. This one really bothers me, folks, because it adds more to every puzzle we have on these cases. Like Cullen and Elliotte, very similar cases, just more data with Elliotte. So, questions. If she stopped walking at 4:30, where was she? And why wasn't she captured on CCTV for that 50 minutes? She's never seen entering the water. Do you really think that this lady swam for 3 hours in the Mississippi and then suddenly drowns? What? If she was swimming, why not swim to shore? What was she wearing when she was found? Never been released. Important to me. A lot of times abductees claim that underwear, things that they normally put on correctly, are on backwards and wrong. They said that there was no drugs in her system, but they never stated if they tested for GHB. After all the cases that have happened in Wisconsin, it is beyond my intellect to understand why they're not testing for GHB. It's been proven to be a part of these cases. I'm blown away they didn't. Now, in August, they had a funeral mass for Elliotte. They said that she was living to help others, always smiling, loved her dog, loved the outdoors. And you know, at a time in this world where we need more people like that, isn't it ironic that she disappears and dies? It's almost as though it was a targeted hit to take her out from what's really needed in our world. We need mental health professionals like there's no tomorrow. Do you know in some areas of the United States there aren't any psychiatrists? Canada's having a huge problem with this right now. Yeah, we got big problems. I want to say something to Elliotte's family. The families that have been involved in these cases that have seriously contributed a lot to the understanding have done second autopsies. See if GHB is in that system. The coroner stated there was no serious trauma to the body. Was there any trauma to the body? I want to know. Was she wearing shoes? If not, what happened to them? Also, I'd like to know what was in her stomach. Had she eaten? Stomach contents are important. A lot of this information is kept from you and me for a multitude of reasons, I believe. Because it's easier to string together these cases if we know. Like we could go backward in time, and I doubt it, the detectives did it, to check with the bar to see how many drinks Elliotte really had. Now let's think about this. If her heart stopped beating at 7:30 and she left the bar at 2, that means 5 hours had transpired and 0.10 amount of blood alcohol had come out of her system. That means, folks, when she walked out of that bar, she had to have a blood alcohol level approaching 0.3. Impossible. Impossible for her to be walking with that blood alcohol level. But nobody's talking about that. Don't you think that's important? There was no place on CCTV that they ever saw her stop and drink any other alcohol. This was in the middle of the morning. You can tell I'm a little riled up. I am. I wish that the Wisconsin police would take these more seriously and take a deeper dive on them. I am 100% positive the FBI knows about this, and they know that there's something wrong. Just like the medical examiners, they know. But local reports for local consumption. Thanks for being here. Kindness is important. Say a prayer for Elliotte's family, the Heinz. She has a brother, a sister, and 2 parents who loved her or trying to live without her. Not easy. Paulides out.